Hey folks, Mike Dadkak with you. I want you to head over to marketplace.drstellamd.com. That's marketplace.drstellamd.com. That's where you can find all the health and wellness products you need to make sure you're prepared for whatever comes next. She's got Vax detox bundles, pandemic preparedness kits, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine supplies. You can sign up for a telehealth session and get the care you need from a doctor who's been telling us the truth about health and wellness and COVID from the very beginning. Head on over to marketplace.drstellamd.com. Use promo code ITN as Dr. Stella, who's a friend of the show and a friend to freedom loving patriots everywhere, has agreed to give ITN viewers a generous discount. Take care of yourselves and your families by going to marketplace.drstellamd.com and getting the supplies you need to remain prepared. Tell them Mike sent you. We are with the one and only Tim Keller from US Diabetes Care. Tim, welcome to the show. I am really glad to have you, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Tell us a little bit about how you got into this line of work. I imagine, like most people, you had a personal experience with diabetes, no?
Yeah, so I started in medical when I was, about 17 years old, going through the journey of, just working in medicine, kind of learning a lot. At 37 years old, I went to actually a life insurance blood work panel, and my life insurance agent called me and said, "You better go see your doctor." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "You have the highest A1C that we've ever seen in doing and life insurance lab work." I said, "Wow, that's interesting. What was it?" He says it was 11.7.
Whoa. I think we lost you, Tim. We're going to hang out here for a second and try and get Tim back. Hang with me, folks. We're going to see if we can do it the manual way. Oh, did I see a flicker here? Tim, can you hear me? Thought I saw a sign of life there. Tim, can you hear me? Hang with me, folks. We are trying to get Tim Keller back. This is going to be a fascinating discussion because diabetes affects roughly 40 million Americans. And I myself, hey, there's Tim. I was
I
trying to keep.
The world of technology. I don't know what happened there.
Well, this only happens, by the way, not to put my tinfoil hat on, but this only happens when we have truly important conversations and conversations that challenge the status quo. So, my friend, you are in good company. So, let's pick up where we left off. The last we heard was an astronomical number for an A1C level over 11. Is that true? By the way, that's probably not something that you want to hear from your life insurance agent. This is the highest number we've ever seen.
Yeah, it was 11.7, so that was alarming, almost three times what it should be.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, all right, you know what? I'm not going to get into the personal thing yet. So you hear that, and I'm sure right away you're panicking, right? I'm sure that the stress level went through the roof.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely panicked just from the standpoint I was in the orthopedic side of things. So I've seen all the end stage diabetes things that happen to patients. At that time, even though I was very versed in orthopedic world, I was not versed in diabetes.
Tell us a little. That's interesting to me. Tell us a little bit about end stage diabetes and the havoc that it can wreak on a body.
Yeah, so end stage diabetes, where I was at, I probably had diabetes for about 10 years, is what I've figured out with where my A1C was. But end stage diabetes brings all the havoc. So diabetes is a small blood vessel disease. So basically, everything that lives in your extremities are small blood vessels, and your cells live in your muscles that take the glucagon from liver into your cells for energy, right? People don't realize that. They think diabetes is kind of an internal disease. It's
Yeah.
really an external disease. If we let everything get internal, which means having diabetes that's not taken care of for a long period of time, you start having peripheral neuropathy, right? So in your hands and your feet, your eyes, your brain starts being affected. If you don't notice those signs and you let those continue, then you start getting into the worst stuff: kidney failure, amputations, blindness,
Hmm.
very, very devastating things. And the problem is this: diabetes is a very asymptomatic disease. People don't really realize they have it.
That's yeah, I think that is such an important point because it's one of those ailments that you don't realize the damage that it can do until it's too late, right? Until it's really in advanced stages.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Most of the time, when people really discover that they've been, look at me when I had my diabetes discovered, through, just kind of understanding the diabetic process, and that have had diabetes for a long time. I probably was about 27, 28 when I got diabetes, and I just didn't know it and wasn't managing it, wasn't controlling it, wasn't doing any lifestyle things to curb it off. Uh, and luckily I caught it when I did, because if, now I'm 52, it could have remained asymptomatic this whole time. And then now when the bad stuff starts happening to me, all the cards are going to fall. It's kind of like a deck of cards. Once they fall, they all fall.
Did you have any symptoms?
No, completely asymptomatic. So that's the scary thing about diabetes. If you're like, I was an ex football player and athlete, right? So,
Yeah.
since it is a muscular disease, and people, still don't understand that today, diabetes is a muscular disease because all the cells live in the muscle for energy. That you don't get symptoms. I wasn't getting the thirst and urination and fatigue and all those things because I was just kind of excreting the excess insulin through the blood and out the body through the muscle mass. But at the time, no symptoms at all.
Is this is the first time I'm hearing this, and you please forgive me, but is thirst a symptom of diabetes?
Yeah, so they say, being thirsty all the time can't quench your thirst. Frequent urination, so the body's trying to naturally get the excess sugar out of the body. It starts producing the feeling have to urinate a lot. And then also cramping, muscle fatigue are all early symptoms of diabetes.
That is so interesting. I always say the best episodes are when you can forget you're the host and become a member of the audience. This is this is going to be one of those episodes. So you hear that number 11 and you think what's the first thing you did?
Well, obviously, I listened to my life insurance agent and I called my doctor.
Yeah.
And then and this is kind of how U.S. Diabetes Care was formed, because my doctor had nothing for me. Mike, I went in there. He said, "Wow, that's a pretty high A1C and fasting blood sugar, and here's 7 medications, and there's an education class, I think, in about 3 months at the hospital, which you probably should get to."
You're like, "Thanks, doc. Thanks for
Yeah, yeah, like wow, you know. So, but the crazy thing is, Mike, 5 of the 7 medications he prescribed, I didn't even need. I didn't have high blood pressure at the time. I didn't have any lipidemia. I wasn't retaining water. He gave me water pills. He gave me metformin. He gave me a statin for cholesterol. I didn't have any cholesterol issues. And I'm like, what's going on here? And he said, well, most diabetics, once you're a diabetic, always a diabetic. Your symptoms aren't going to get better. They're probably going to get worse. You're probably going to eventually be on more insulin. I'm just trying to help you curve off some of these things. And even though I'm giving you some things that you say you don't need right now, I'm being very proactive on the things that I know are coming. And I'm like, wow, I'm not willing to take medications that I don't have symptoms of yet.
Right. Right, because it's not like these things have zero side effects. All of these things have side effects. And by the way, it sounds to me, and I don't know your doctor, I'm sure he's a swell guy, but it sounds to me like he was just checking boxes. Was he not testing your A1C before that point?
The crazy thing is, Mike, they don't test A1Cs in a normal panel. In a normal panel, they just check your glucose fasting level, right? So you're supposed to be fasting up to 12 hours before you go get blood.
Right.
If your glucose levels come back normal, they're really not going to really test for an A1C. So if your glucose levels come back high, then that's when they'll call you back in and do a separate A1C panel. So that's when, we kind of do things opposite in US Diabetes Care. You come and, get a panel from us. We're testing everything right away. I mean, we're going to test insulin resistance. We're going to test your sugar, your A1C. We're going to test all the lipid panels. I mean, we're going to figure out where you really are in your journey with your health, even if it's a pre-screening, even if you're not a diabetic. They have this new thing out called pre-diabetes, Mike, and that came
Yes.
about 10 years ago. And they're like, pre-diabetes, what is that? Well, it's an A1C from 5.6 to 7.0. But, I have a little joke that I throw around. I know some people like my sense of humor, but I say you're not pre-pregnant. Either you're diabetic or you're not, right? So this pre thing is just so they can prescribe more medicine to you, metformin and things like that. I guess that there is a pre-world of diabetes. That's where you want to be, because we can definitely reverse diabetes. We can reverse diabetes with people with 13, 16, 18 A1Cs. We've done it. So that's just the facts about blood work.
Well, okay. So tell us a little bit about US Diabetes Care and how that came about. I'm sure right around this point you're like, wait, there's got to be a better way here.
Yeah, since I had my healthcare background, and I actually had written a couple other business plans in the healthcare space. I guess from my career, I was more of a visionary,
Yeah.
right? I always kind of seen things in medicine that could be done different in the orthopedic world, and I just took that vision mind of mine and built a business plan around diabetes. And that whole business plan was built around lifestyle medicine, about making lifestyle changes. The reason why I built that business plan is because that's exactly what I did when I had the A1C and actually A1C and blood sugar. I had reversed within a month. I went on a real strict.
Whoa,
Yeah,
1 month?
I went on a real strict lifestyle change, Mike. And that means, be an athlete, get back in the gym. Exercise is the most important things diabetics can be doing to get excess sugar out of the body. But then I went on a real
Mm,
strict lifestyle diet.
that is absolutely fascinating. Okay, let me share with you a little personal anecdote, because I'm really looking forward to asking someone that I trust and who is knowledgeable about this subject. Back in October, okay, I go and I get my yearly physical. I get my blood work back and I get diagnosed as pre-diabetic. I have an A1C of 5.7. Okay. Now, this really shook me. I have a brother-in-law who is diabetic, and it scared the bejesus out of me. Plus, I have a really, really bad sweet tooth. Okay. Chocolate is my kryptonite. I am a soda drinker. Even with all we know, I drink a lot of sodas. I have a lot of sweets. I think we may have lost Tim again. What a shame. I was just getting to the good part. Well, Tim took a couple of seconds to come back the last time, so I'm sure the same thing is going to happen here. And as soon as we have him back, we'll continue with the story. Hey, Tim, can you hear us? There you are. Got you back. Can you hear me all right?
Are you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
This is unbelievable.
I can hear you, but I don't think you can hear me.
Mike, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I apologize. I know you're going to edit some of this, but it's like I had to do this through the phone because my computer wasn't linked up with Chrome at the last minute when I got this. And if you get a phone, I guess I've learned now, you get a phone call while you're on this, it just shuts down the.
It shuts down.
Shuts
Well,
down.
that's more than fine. Like I say, this always happens when you get to really, really good stuff that you're trying to make people wake up on. So I back in October, I go back and I get my yearly physical. I get my A1C level tested. It's the first time I've ever been tested for A1C, which is kind of weird. Not weird, but kind of weird. And it comes back a 5.7, right? So I get diagnosed as pre-diabetic. I immediately panic. I have the worst sweet tooth imaginable. So I'm thinking to myself, this is really going to take a lot of work. Okay. So I cut soda out. I maybe have it once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. I cut dessert out completely, maybe have that once every 2 weeks. I read all the labels now. I cut out the juices, I cut out the iced teas. I'm drinking water almost exclusively. I'm watching, again, no junk food, no sweets. Fruit, I still ate a lot of, and then of course, the vegetables and that kind of stuff. So I go back in January and I get retested, and my A1C has gone up. It's now 6. Right. So now I mean, even if it stayed the same, I would be confused. This is how much of a change I made in my lifestyle. So I get my doctor on a Zoom call and I'm like, hey, what gives? I mean, you have no idea how hard the last 3 months have been. And she really has no, and I like my doctor. I respect her. I mean, she's actually not one of those doctors that just prescribes and shoves you out of the room. She tries to listen to you and tries to get to root causes. But she had no answers for me on this. And I was pressing her and she was kind of like, well, you can eat and then lie down for 5 minutes. And then, when she said that, I knew she was kind of grasping. So I kind of gently let her off the hook. But I went back about 2 weeks ago and I got retested, and then it went back down to 5.6. So I'm still technically pre-diabetic, but none of this made sense to me. And I'm not exactly sure. I know this is, again, the tinfoil hat is coming back on, but I'm not exactly sure this whole episode was on the up and up. I'm not exactly sure what I'm suspicious of, but I am suspicious. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you, Mike. Sorry. A1Cs are just a blood work side of the test of diabetes.
Mm.
What you're experiencing is called insulin resistance, right? So type 2 diabetes, type 3 diabetes are just a diagnosis of insulin resistance. So what's happening is that insulin resistance is a intercellular lipid fat that gets clogged up in the cells. It happens from uh, fatty foods, fatty oils, not the good oils, the canola oils, the Crisco's, things like that.
Yeah.
And refined foods. And what I mean by refined foods, everything that's in the inner aisles.
Yeah.
Crackers, I mean, snacks, cereals. I mean, all these are refined foods. So what it does is it clogs up the cells with it they call intercellular lipid fat, which now is so your cells have like little doors that open to take the glucagon for energy. Those
Mm.
get blocked. So then what happens is that sugar just gets bounced back out in the body. And if you don't get rid of your insulin resistance, you're not going to get rid of your diabetes. The one thing that we've learned over the last 15 years, and they're starting finally getting to, some smart answers about diabetes out there, is that, insulin resistance is not only the cause of diabetes, it's the cause of every disease state in the body. So if you have insulin resistance, it's going to cause high blood pressure, it's going to cause cholesterol, it's going to cause brain fog, it's going to cause fatigue, muscle cramping. I mean, there's so many things that insulin resistance creates in the body.
This is such a widespread thing. How many people in the United States are diagnosed with diabetes right now?
Well, there's 39 million that are diagnosed. Now, the problem is, Mike, that number can be skewed a little bit. And the reason why is those are Medicare, Medicaid numbers,
Mm.
CMS numbers, right? So
Mm.
I think there's more because, private pay commercial, you're not getting their data. The scariest part is,
We're going to hang out, wait for Tim to come back.
no, sorry, people are calling through.
That's all right.
Oh, I'm getting frustrated. So,
That's all right.
and the problem is, Mike, they're all spam calls, right? So it's not like these are important calls coming through.
We're probably going to get.
Next time we'll learn. I mean, I'll learn how to go on and put a privacy setting so no one can call me during this time. But
They'll still find a way to mess with us.
Oh, they will. But back to the reality of what diabetes is that insulin resistance that gets created in the body is there's some severe education that needs to happen.
Yes, there is.
For people to kind of learn what they need to be doing with insulin resistance. Back to what we were talking about in the United States, the one number that really is concerning and scary is that there's 93 million pre-diabetics.
Yeah.
So once again, what I tell you about the pre-diabetes, and you know what, Mike, a lot of these are kids.
Yeah.
there's kids walking around preschool and middle school and high school and college, and they have diabetes and they don't even know they have it. And parents, and what doctors are testing, pediatricians and regular doctors testing a teenager for that, they're just not. They just like, hey, they're healthy, standard run. And you got all these children that are part of that 93 million pre-diabetics, that, guess what, are going to turn into, if you want to call it a full-blown type 2, type 3. Now that they're talking a lot about type 3 diabetes, which is the scariest part. You can tell a diabetic they're going to get their toe amputated and they don't care. They go, I got 9 others, but you tell them they're going to lose their function and cognitive function in their mind and get dementia and Alzheimer's. It scares the death out of them. So we kind of use that brain health side a lot in US Diabetes Care. We actually test, Mike, with a brain view device called Wavi, and we actually scan a patient's brain, and we have an in-house neurologist that we have follow up with the patient, and basically we can see white cloud matter and issues going on with the brain, and we'll say, hey, you have early onset vascular dementia. You need to take this serious because this can lead to other cognitive and brain function issues. And once again, Mike, this is caused by insulin resistance.
I think this is so, so important. So if someone calls US Diabetes Care, walk us through this. What can they expect when they sign up with you guys?
So this is a great thing about US Diabetes Care, Mike, and this is what really sets us apart. If you call us and you get a new appointment with us, you come in, we do what they call level 5 visit. No one does a level 5 visit in medicine anymore. What that is an hour to hour and a half visit with a patient one-on-one.
I can't even remember the last time I spent more than maybe 15 minutes, to be fair, 15 minutes face to face with a doctor.
Yeah. So what happens is diabetics, and this is the key of where US Diabetes Care sets ourselves apart. If a diabetic's a diabetic and they've been, say, 10 years a diabetic, they go to the doctor, they take time off of work, they wait in the waiting room for 2 hours, they see a doctor for 5 minutes.
Yes.
How are you going to educate a diabetic to make lifestyle changes in 5 minutes? You're not, because what you're
No.
going to do is use a bunch of scare tactics or maybe increase their medicines, and then they go out the door frustrated. And those diabetics throw their hands up and say, I'm just going to continue to do what I'm doing, live the
It's
lifestyle I'm
hopeless.
living because
Right.
I'm hopeless.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what happens.
So US Diabetes Care, if you, I don't know if I know you probably went on and looked at our website, but US Diabetes Care is love, hope, family. That's
Mm,
our mission. So we
mm.
give patients love by spending more time with them to get to know them, to build that relationship with them. We ask all the questions. We answer all the questions. We let them ask all the questions. We answer their questions. And then guess what? We build a bond with that patient. They trust us. And through trust and love, we build a education platform that we invite them to on Thursdays with Dr. Castro. Now they're getting community because they're in an education room with a bunch of other diabetics. For
Yeah.
some reason, my diabetics feel depressed and lonely. They feel like they're the only ones that have this disease when there's so many that have it. So they get a lot of attention in those diabetic classrooms where we're really teaching lifestyle education. But what we're really teaching in there is community. You're not alone, but we're showing you some lifestyle changes that you can do together to make a difference with your diabetes. Some magical things happen there, but that, once again, now guess what we're giving? So you got the love side. Now you're giving them the hope,
Yeah.
and when you give people hope, they make changes. You
Yes,
know
they
why, Mike?
do.
Because they don't want to let you down. They're like, I
Yeah.
love Dr. Castro. I love my nurse. I love the nurses here. I love what Tim's passion is about US Diabetes Care. I don't want to be one of those people that aren't doing what they tell you to do and let you down. So guess what happens? We give them more time with their family because they've improved their condition. Now they're happier and healthier people. They feel happier and healthier. They got more energy. They can go for walks. They can be with their grandchildren. They can, just do things that normal people do. They don't have the cravings that they had before of the eating addictions, and it's just magical. So when we started doing that on a personal level, there, I decided to go out and build a worldwide app, to take the same education platform there that we can't get to people clinically and teach them the lifestyle that they need to change because we have all the data in house of what we know what our program does.
That is so important. That was my next question. What, because you guys are based in Tennessee, correct?
East Tennessee, we have a 15,000 square foot center there, everything under one roof for a diabetic. So we kind of do clinical care, we do ancillary testing, we do education, we have in-house surgical podiatrist, wound care, which we don't want to get patients to wound care, but we have the ability to do wound care there. And we have in-house neurologists and, you know, anything that we need in-house for those patients, we got it for diabetics. What's important about that is why it allows us to give the kind of time stamp of care we do
Mm.
is because we have everything in house. We don't have to send a patient down the street over here and over here to this clinic and hey, go see your, nephrologist over here. Go see your general practice doctor over here. I mean, because what we do is we kind of do all the diabetes treatment in house in the med protocol, and then we send them back to their primary care, happy, healthy patients, and their primary care has less work to do. They love us because they're like, you guys are doing all the heavy lifting with the hardest patients that I have that I don't have the time to spend with them. And the reason why they don't have time to spend with them, Mike, is because westernized medicine is broken. There's no money in a cure. It's a symptomatic treating. So you treat a symptom, not a patient.
Yeah.
And then the other problem is that doctors now, or most of them are owned by big healthcare systems, that they're mandated to see 40 to 45 patients a day in office just to break even. And then maybe if they see more than that, they'll get a little bonus. But doctors are all paid based on volume now and not care. So you're getting it's quantity, not quality of care, and it's a broken system. So, and it's going to continue to be that way unless we do something to curb healthcare in this country. And it doesn't have to be just U.S. diabetes care. Now, I think we're way far advanced than anybody else is as far as the kind of care we give and the education we give our patients. But doesn't mean that there's not enough diabetics to go around. I think that people need to start getting on board because if we don't curb this 93 million that are pre-diabetic, they're all going to become diabetics and we're going to have a mass epidemic on our hand, and we already do. But the problem is U.S. Diabetes Care is trying to curb that gap. But right now, the U.S. diabetes outcome, and not us, U.S. Diabetes Care, is a $500 million disease and growing. And that's just Medicare. Once again, that's just Medicare and Medicaid's numbers. We're not throwing private pay commercial numbers into those and self-pay companies. We're going to be the first $1 trillion disease that our government's going to face if we don't do something about it. And the reality is that the
Did you
CMS,
say you said 500 billion or million?
500 billion
Billion with a B.
with a B.
Wow. That's an industry. That's a huge industry.
Very huge. And the thing is, it's all ran by big pharma, big medical, controlling the narrative with the lobbyists, with the CMS that runs Medicare, Medicaid services. The ADA is broken. The CDC is broken. We can get into a conversation about that too. It would take us all night. There's a lot of bad things going on within those organizations, and I know that Maha is trying to make some movements in the right direction for that, and I pray it does because these diabetics need it.
No, they absolutely do. I want to ask you about something you said earlier before we let you go here. We have a couple of minutes left. Tell us about exercise. You said you reversed your A1C, your astronomical A1C number by exercise. When I had my little episode and my couple little conversations with my doctor over the last several months, let's see if I can remember. She said that it was 80% diet, 20% exercise. Is that how you see it?
I think you can't outwork a diet. So I think,
Mhm.
I think diet is very important, right? Because you can go to the gym all day long, but if you're eating processed, refined foods and bad stuff, you're not going to see a lot of results in the gym. So, diet's a very, very big important, but I would say probably 70-30. I mean, I'd curve her a little bit because I think exercise is very important and diabetics don't realize that 15 minutes of walking after eating is amazing for insulin resistance and getting your sugars balanced out. Diabetics really, if they got up to 10,000 steps a day, would be absolutely amazing. It's going to be hard at first. You're not going to want to do it, but walk to the mailbox, go outside, pick up some sticks in the yard, do some things that get you motivated to, get some energy levels up through exercise. But exercise is the most, to me, Diet, definitely you cannot work a diet. Again, I'll emphasize that lifestyle diet is very important, but exercise is the most important. You got to get moving.
So this is an absolutely fascinating conversation, and we want to have you back because I have a feeling we are just scratching the surface here. Before we let you go, tell the folks where they can find you again. Give the folks the website address. And by the way, for that, I mean, that amazing facility that you just described a moment ago, that sounds great. But if people can't get to you physically, there's still a way to access your knowledge and your library and your knowledge base online, is there not?
Yeah, so we have an online app that is on usdiabetescare.com. You're going to go to a link, you hit learn more. It's going to give you a landing page to talk about our app. Read the landing page. I encourage everybody, just don't hit learn more and then try to get the app without reading the landing page. And we actually have a 3.5 minute clip with Dr. Castro on some teasers of what we do in the education process. And then get the app, because, guys, $99.99 is very cheap to change your life. I made this app inexpensive on purpose because this is not about money for me, Mike. This is about changing the lives of U.S. people that have diabetes. And it's not just diabetes. This is a lifestyle medicine platform for everybody. You don't just have to have diabetes. You want to get in and learn the right things about your body. We talk about all kinds of things. We talk about insulin resistance. We talk about oxidative stress. We talk about anxiety and stressors. We talk about brain health. I mean, we go into a lot of different things. This is for everybody. So I encourage anybody to once again go to usdiabetescare.com, hit learn more.
No, it sounds like you guys are doing the right thing here. Tim, it was a real pleasure. This was a fascinating conversation. Thanks for taking the time. And more importantly, thanks for doing what you're doing.
All right, thank you, Mike, for everything you're doing as well.